Admiral Vashi leaned back in his crystalline command throne, tentacles twitching with barely contained amusement. The holographic display before him showed a small blue-green planet spinning lazily in space, completely oblivious to its impending doom. "So, Drohorn," he gurgled, his voice dripping with condescension, "this is the famous Earth? The planet that supposedly houses intelligent life?" Admiral Drohorn's 4 eyes rolled in perfect synchronization. "Oh yes, the humans. They call themselves the dominant species." He paused, letting out a sound that could only be described as intergalactic snickering. "They still use combustion engines, Vashi? Combustion. Can you believe it? They burn dead plants and animals to move their pathetic metal boxes around." "How quaint," Vashi replied, his voice thick with mockery. "And their space program? Please tell me it's at least mildly impressive." Drohorn's tentacles quivered with suppressed laughter. "They strap themselves to controlled explosions and hope for the best. Their most advanced spacecraft look like tin cans with wings. Yesterday I watched one of their astronauts fix a critical system by hitting it with a hammer. A hammer, Vashi." The entire council chamber erupted in what passed for alien laughter. Various species chittered, gurgled, and wheezed in their native tongues. General Kraft Nog, whose species resembled a cross between a rhinoceros and a particularly angry porcupine, slammed his massive fist on the council table. "This is almost too easy," he bellowed. "Why are we even bothering with a formal invasion? We could probably conquer them with a strongly worded letter and a few warning shots." Now, Admiral Vashi said, raising a dismissive tentacle, "we must follow proper galactic protocol, even for these adorable primitives." He emphasized the word adorable like he was talking about a particularly slow pet. "We'll give them the standard surrender ultimatum first. It's only sporting." Judge Quintara, the council's chief diplomat, adjusted her spectacles with a sardonic smile. "Oh yes, let's be proper about it. We wouldn't want to deny them the traditional 24 Earth hours to contemplate their inevitable defeat. Though honestly, I doubt they'll understand half the words in our ultimatum. Perhaps we should use smaller words?" suggested Quartermaster A, his voice deadpan. "Maybe include pictures? I hear they respond well to visual aids." The chamber filled with renewed laughter. Admiral Vashi wiped a tear from one of his many eyes. "This will be the easiest conquest in galactic history. I'm almost embarrassed to add it to my service record." "Well then," Admiral Drohorn announced, still chuckling, "let's get this comedy show started. Send the ultimatum to Earth. Time to watch these humans scramble around like headless space chickens." Little did they know the joke was about to be on them. The transmission crackled through space, carrying the Galactic Council's most intimidating ultimatum. Judge Quintera had spent hours perfecting the wording, ensuring maximum psychological impact. Surely these primitive humans would wet themselves with terror upon receiving such a magnificently threatening message. The response came back exactly 47 minutes later. "Yeah, hi there, this is Commander Tom Mali, Earth Defense Coordinator. Got your message. Pretty neat special effects, by the way. Look, I'm gonna need you to fill out some paperwork first. Can't process any invasion requests without the proper forms. It's Tuesday, so the office is only open until 4:30. Also, Linda from HR says you need to include your galactic insurance information." Admiral Vashi's jaw dropped so far it nearly hit the floor. His tentacles twitched in bewilderment. Did he just ask us to fill out paperwork?" Judge Quintara's eye began twitching in a way that suggested impending violence. "Paperwork? Paperwork? We're offering them the chance to surrender before we obliterate their pathetic planet, and they want insurance information." Admiral Drohorn leaned forward, squinting at the transmission device as if it were personally offending him. Maybe they didn't understand the gravity of the situation. Let's try again, but louder this time. The second ultimatum was considerably more aggressive. It included detailed descriptions of orbital bombardment, complete planetary subjugation, and graphic warnings about what happened to species who defied the Galactic Council. Commander Mali's response arrived 2 hours later, Hey again, Tom Molly here. Thanks for the follow-up. Really appreciate the enthusiasm. Unfortunately, our Interplanetary Threat Assessment Committee only meets on Thursdays, and they're currently backed up 3 weeks due to a filing cabinet malfunction. Also, Bob from it wants to know if you have any technical specifications for your death rays. He's curious about the energy output ratings. Oh, and Carol from accounting says your invasion permit expired last Tuesday. You'll need to renew it before we can officially acknowledge your threat status. The silence in the council chamber was deafening. General Kraftnog's eye began twitching in perfect harmony with Judge Quintara's. Admiral Vashi looked like he was having a stroke. Are they mocking us? Quartermaster whispered, his voice filled with disbelief. They can't be, Judge Quintara sputtered. They're too primitive to understand sarcasm. This must be their genuine bureaucratic process. Permit renewal? General Kraftnog roared, causing several smaller council members to dive under their seats. Threat status. What kind of backward, red tape nightmare are we dealing with here? Admiral Drehorn's tentacles were now tied in knots of frustration. Perhaps we should just skip the pleasantries and begin the demonstration phase. Maybe seeing our ships will motivate them to take this seriously. Excellent idea, Admiral Vashi said through gritted teeth. Let's show these filing-obsessed primitives what real power looks like. They had no idea how wrong they were about to be. General Kraftnog cracked his knuckles with the sound of breaking concrete. Right then. Time for these humans to see what they're up against. Deploy the demonstration fleet. I want massive warships hovering over every major population center. New York, London, Tokyo, Moscow. The works. How many ships should we send? Admiral Drehorn asked, his tentacles already reaching for the deployment controls. Oh, let's not overwhelm them, Kraftnog replied with a sneer. 500 ships should be more than enough to make them soil themselves with terror. The alien fleet descended through Earth's atmosphere like metallic storm clouds, each vessel the size of a city block. Their hulls gleamed menacingly in the sunlight, casting enormous shadows over the bustling streets below. Surely this would send the humans into complete panic mode. The reaction was not quite what they expected. In downtown Chicago, Amy Kowalski barely looked up from her latte as a massive alien dreadnought positioned itself directly above the coffee shop. Well, that's new, she commented to the barista, who was calmly wiping down the espresso machine. Guess it's tourist season again. Hope they don't block out all the sun. I just got my vitamin D levels back to normal. A businessman in a three-piece suit glanced at his watch, then at the hovering death machine. Are they going to be there long? I've got a meeting at 2 and street parking is already impossible downtown. Meanwhile, in Times Square, Brandon Torres had set up his phone to live-stream the alien ships. Okay guys, so apparently we're being invaded or something. Pretty cool ships though, not gonna lie. The design is giving me serious retro-futuristic vibes. Very 1950s sci-fi movie aesthetic. I'm getting strong Flash Gordon energy here. He paused to sip his energy drink. Chat's asking if I'm scared. Honestly. Not really. I mean, if they wanted us dead, wouldn't they just, do it already? This whole hovering thing feels very dramatic, like they're waiting for applause or something. In the alien command ship, General Kraftnog was staring at the surveillance screens with his mouth hanging open. Are they ignoring us? Maybe they're in shock, Admiral Vashi suggested weakly. Paralyzed with fear? On the screen, Amy Kowalski was now taking selfies with the alien ship in the background. Her caption read, Alien Invasion Day. Still need my caffeine fix though. Priorities, people. Hashtag first contact, hashtag coffee first. Brandon Torres continued his commentary. Oh wow, guys. Looks like they've got some kind of energy weapon charging up on the bottom. That's pretty neat. The blue glow is actually quite aesthetic. Very mood-lighting vibes. Judge Quintara's eye was twitching so violently it looked like she was having a seizure. Mood lighting? Mood lighting? Those are plasma cannons capable of reducing city blocks to ash. Sir, Quartermaster reported, his voice hollow with disbelief. I'm reading minimal panic responses across all target cities. Traffic patterns remain normal. Stock markets are actually going up. Something about alien tourism revenue? Admiral Drehorn's tentacles were now permanently knotted. How is this possible? They should be running screaming through the streets. Where are the emergency broadcasts? The military mobilizations? The desperate surrender attempts? On the surveillance feed, Amy Kowalski was now directing other customers to pose with the alien ship for group photos. Brandon Torres had started a donation stream with the goal of buying a telescope to get better shots of the alien technology. This is not how invasions are supposed to work, General Kraftnog muttered, looking like he'd aged several decades in the past hour. In the back corner of the command bridge, two junior officers huddled together in whispered debate. Moran, whose species resembled a cross between a praying mantis and a tax auditor, clicked his mandibles nervously. I'm telling you, Morden, they're just stupid, he hissed. Look at them. They're taking pictures. No intelligent species takes selfies during their own invasion. Morden, who looked like someone had crossed a squid with a philosophy professor, shook his head vigorously. No, this is too organized, too calm. Nobody is this stupid. They're hiding something, Moran. Mark my words. Hiding what? Their complete lack of survival instincts? Think about it, Morden insisted, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. When was the last time you saw an entire species react to invasion with casual indifference? This isn't normal panic paralysis. This is confidence. Meanwhile, General Kraftnog was reaching the end of his considerable patience. Right. Enough games. Charge the main weapons. Let's vaporize a few city blocks. That should get their attention. The alien ships began powering up their most devastating weapons systems. Energy readings spiked across their hulls as plasma cannons reached critical charge levels. The low hum of charging death rays filled the air above every major city. Amy Kowalski looked up from her third latte of the day as the alien ship above her began glowing more intensely. Oh, they're getting all glowy now. That's actually pretty cool. Hey, Steve, she called to the barista, you getting this on your phone? My followers are gonna love this light show. Brandon Torres adjusted his live stream angle. Okay guys, so now they're doing the whole charging up thing. Very anime. Much dramatic tension. Chat's asking if I'm gonna run. Why would I run? If they were gonna blow stuff up, they would have done it by now. This is obviously just for show. Back on the command ship, Quartermaster was staring at his instruments with growing confusion. Sir, I'm getting some very strange readings from the planet's oceans. Strange how? Admiral Vashi asked, not really paying attention as he watched humans continue to ignore the charging weapons above their heads. Well, sir, it's the sonar mapping we did during our initial approach. I didn't think much of it at first, but Quartermaster paused, double-checking his readings. There are massive metallic signatures beneath the water. Everywhere. And I mean everywhere. Define massive, Judge Quintera said, finally looking up from her rage-induced meditation. Sir, some of these signatures are reading as larger than our flagship, much larger. And there are a lot of them. Moran and Morton exchanged meaningful glances. Told you they were hiding something, Morton whispered. Admiral Drehorn waved a dismissive tentacle. Probably just underwater cities or something. These primitives love building things in inconvenient places. But Quartermaster wasn't finished. Sir, the metal composition, it's not matching anything in our databases. And the energy signatures, they're actively powered, sir. Whatever's down there, it's not ancient ruins. A new transmission crackled through from Earth. Commander Tom Malley's voice filled the bridge, but this time there was something different about his tone. Something that made every alien on the bridge sit up and pay attention. Hey there, space friends. Tom Malley again? So, I've got some good news and some bad news. Good news is we've processed your invasion permit. Congratulations, you're now officially recognized as hostile alien invaders. Bad news is, our insurance doesn't cover acts of space war. So we're going to have to decline your generous offer of subjugation. There was a pause, and when Molly spoke again, there was definitely smugness in his voice. Also, just so you know, we've been tracking your ships since you entered our solar system 3 months ago. Nice cloaking tech, by the way. Very retro. Our stuff is better, though. The silence on the alien bridge was deafening. 3 months? Their cloaking technology was supposed to be undetectable by primitive civilizations. How Admiral Vashi began, but his voice failed him. Commander Molly's voice continued, dripping with casual confidence. Oh, and one more thing. You might want to check your ocean scans again? We've been doing some renovations lately. The transmission cut off, leaving the alien command bridge in stunned silence. Admiral Vashi's tentacles were twitching so rapidly they looked like they might tie themselves in permanent knots. Quartermaster A, he said, his voice barely above a whisper, run a full deep space scan of every body of water on this planet. Now, you end. Sir, that will take our most powerful sensors and… Peace, now. The scanning process began immediately. High-powered alien sensors, designed to penetrate entire planetary crusts, focused their attention on Earth's oceans. The results that came back made every alien in the command center question their sanity. Sir Quartermaster A's voice was hollow. The readings, they can't be accurate. What are you seeing? General Kraftnog demanded, stomping over to peer at the displays. Metal signatures, sir. Massive ones. The Pacific Ocean alone is showing Jesus. How do I even say this number? Thousands of them. Each one the size of a small moon. Judge Quintara's eye stalks extended to their maximum length. That's impossible. Our intelligence reports showed these humans barely have a functional space program. Atlantic Ocean is the same, sir, Quartermaster continued, his voice growing more panicked by the second. Indian Ocean, Arctic Ocean, Mediterranean Sea, even the smaller bodies of water. Sir, I'm reading metal signatures under every major body of water on this planet. Admiral Drohorn was frantically checking his own instruments. This has to be a mistake. Run the scans again? Sir, I've run them 17 times. The results are consistent. Moran and Morden looked at each other with the expression of beings who had just realized they'd walked into a trap. They knew, Morden whispered. They've known we were coming this entire time. Another transmission from Earth crackled through the speakers. This time, Commander Molly's voice was so dripping with sarcasm it could have corroded metal. Having fun with those scanners, boys and girls? Yeah, we figured you'd eventually get curious about our little ocean situation. See, the thing is, when your advanced scouts showed up in our system about 3 months ago, oh yes. We saw those too. We thought it might be polite to prepare a proper welcome committee. Admiral Vashi was hyperventilating. Advanced scouts? We didn't send any advanced scouts. Molly's voice continued as if he could hear their confusion. What's that? No advanced scouts? Huh. Well, that's awkward. Those 3 ships we've had in our asteroid belt since January must belong to someone else then. We'll have to ask them about that when we get around to releasing them from our tractor beams. The entire command bridge erupted in chaos. Aliens were shouting over each other, frantically checking communication logs and deployment records. General Kraftnog looked like he was about to have a stroke. Anyway, Molly continued cheerfully, since you went through all the trouble of announcing your arrival so dramatically, we thought we'd return the favor. Hope you don't mind, but we're going to need you to back up a bit. Things are about to get a little crowded down here. What does he mean, crowded? Judge Quintara whispered. As if in answer to her question, every ocean on Earth began to churn. The alien surveillance feeds showed massive bubbles rising to the surface from the deepest trenches. The water around major coastlines started to foam and froth like boiling soup. Sir, Quartermaster A's voice was now pure panic. Something massive is rising from the ocean floors. Multiple contacts. Hundreds of contacts. Thousands of contacts. Amy Kowalski, still sipping her latte at the Chicago coffee shop, glanced out the window as Lake Michigan began to bubble violently. "Oh, finally," she said to the barista. "I was wondering when they were going to start the show. This is going to be good." Brandon Torres adjusted his livestream camera as the East River started churning. "Okay, guys, now this is what I've been waiting for. Whatever's about to happen, it's going to be epic." Chat's going absolutely crazy right now. Back on the alien command ship, every alarm system was screaming. The ocean surfaces were now rising in massive swells, as if something unimaginably large was pushing up from beneath. "Sir," Quartermaster reported, his voice cracking, "I'm reading energy signatures that are bigger than our entire fleet combined. Each one. And he paused, rechecking his readings. "Sir, there are over 1 million of them." The command bridge fell silent except for the blaring alarms. Admiral Vashi's tentacles had gone completely limp. General Kraftnog's mouth was hanging open wide enough to park a shuttle in. Commander Molly's voice came through one last time, absolutely dripping with smugness. "Welcome to Earth, gentlemen. We've been expecting you." What happened next would be remembered in galactic history as the most spectacular military revelation ever recorded. And for the aliens watching it unfold, it was their worst nightmare made manifest. The oceans didn't just bubble, they erupted. From every body of water on Earth, from the vast Pacific to tiny mountain lakes, massive forms began breaching the surface. But these weren't whales or sea monsters. These were warships, human warships, and they were absolutely gigantic. The first vessel to fully emerge from the Pacific was so large that Admiral Vashi's brain simply refused to process what he was seeing. The alien flagship, which had been the pride of their invasion fleet, was roughly the size of a city block. This human ship was the size of Manhattan. That's not possible," Admiral Drohorn whispered, his tentacles pressed against the viewing screen. "Nothing that large could function as a spacecraft. The structural integrity alone would." He was cut off as another ship emerged beside the first. Then another. Then 10 more. Then 100 more. The Pacific Ocean was vomiting up warships like a mechanical volcano, each one larger than anything the Galactic Council had ever conceived. General Kraftnog was making small whimpering sounds that his species wasn't supposed to be capable of producing. "How many are there?" he squeaked. Quartermaster was frantically working his instruments, but the numbers were so absurd his brain kept rejecting them. "Sir, the scanners are showing no. This can't be right. According to these readings, there are over 1 million vessels emerging from Earth's oceans." "1 million?" Judge Quintera's voice cracked like a teenager hitting puberty. "That's impossible. No civilization could build 1 million warships without us knowing about it." But the evidence was right there on their screens. From every ocean, sea, and major lake on Earth, human vessels were rising like aquatic skyscrapers. The Atlantic was producing ships that looked like floating cities, bristling with weapon systems that made the aliens' plasma cannons look like water pistols. The Indian Ocean was birthing vessels so sleek and advanced they seemed to bend light around their hulls. Even more terrifying was the precision of it all. These weren't desperate last-minute launches. This was choreographed, planned. The ships rose in perfect formation, positioning themselves with mathematical precision across Earth's surface. Amy Kowalski had abandoned her latte entirely and was now pressed against the coffee shop window with her phone out. "Holy cow, guys, look at the size of that thing. It's like someone built a city and taught it how to fly." From Lake Michigan, a vessel emerged that was so tall it disappeared into the clouds. Its hull was a pristine white that seemed to glow with internal energy, and weapon ports lined its surface like windows on a skyscraper. Dozens of smaller ships, each still larger than the alien flagship, flanked it like an honor guard. Brandon Torres was completely losing his mind on his live stream. Guys, are you seeing this? This is insane. There are literally hundreds of ships coming out of the East River alone, and they're huge. The smallest one I can see is still 10 times bigger than those alien ships. In the alien command center, panic had given way to stunned disbelief. The surveillance screens showed human vessels emerging from bodies of water they hadn't even known existed. Ships were rising from underground reservoirs, from irrigation canals, from decorative fountains in city parks. "Sir," Quartermaster reported in a voice that suggested he was questioning reality itself, "I'm detecting human vessels emerging from a decorative pond in Central Park." The ship is 3 kilometers long and appears to have been folded into a space roughly the size of a swimming pool. "That's scientifically impossible," Admiral Vashi muttered, but he was saying it to convince himself rather than anyone else. The most terrifying part wasn't just the size or number of the human fleet. It was the technology. The alien ships, which had seemed so advanced just hours earlier, now looked like crude toys in comparison. The human vessels moved with impossible grace, their hulls shimmering with energy fields that the alien sensors couldn't even identify. One massive human dreadnought positioned itself directly in front of the alien flagship. It was so large that it blocked out the sun, casting the entire alien vessel in shadow. Weapon systems that defied every known principle of physics tracked toward the suddenly very small and very vulnerable alien invaders. Moran looked at Morden with the expression of someone who had just realized he'd brought a stick to a nuclear war. "Still think they're stupid?" he whispered. Admiral Drehorn's voice was barely audible. "We came here with 500 ships. They just deployed over 1 million. Each one of which could probably vaporize our entire fleet without breaking a sweat." The power dynamic hadn't just shifted. It had been completely obliterated and rebuilt with humans on top. And somewhere on Earth, Commander Mali was undoubtedly smiling. Commander Mali's voice crackled through the communication system one final time, but now his casual tone carried the weight of absolute authority. The aliens hung on every word like condemned prisoners listening to their sentence. "So I figure you're probably wondering how we managed all this," Mali began, his voice so relaxed he might have been discussing weekend plans. "Well, funny story. Turns out, when you're expecting visitors for about 300 years, you have time to prepare properly." Admiral Vashi's remaining tentacles went limp. 300 years? "Oh yeah," Mali continued cheerfully. "See, we've been monitoring galactic communications since the 1700s. Took us a while to crack your encryption, but honestly your security protocols are pretty basic. We've been listening to your invasion planning meetings for decades." "Nice presentation, by the way, Admiral Vashi. Very thorough. Terrible operational security, though." The alien command bridge was so quiet you could hear General Kraftnog's dignity crumbling into dust. "The underwater thing was actually pretty clever, if I do say so myself," Mali went on. "Turns out, when you control 70% of your planet's surface, you can hide a lot of stuff. We've had entire industrial civilizations running down there for centuries. Automated shipyards, manufacturing plants, research facilities, the works." Judge Quintera was making small choking sounds. "Automated for centuries?" "Yep, we started building the fleet around 1850, give or take. Had to pause during a couple of World Wars budget constraints, you understand, but we kept at it. Quality over quantity was never really our motto, though. Why choose when you can have both?" Amy Kowalski had somehow managed to get herself on a global broadcast network. Her coffee shop background made the whole thing even more surreal as she addressed the entire galaxy with a massive human warship visible through the window behind her. "Hi there, galactic community," she said, waving at the camera with her coffee cup. "Amy Kowalski here, just your average Earth human. I wanted to take a moment to address some concerns about our little welcoming committee here." She gestured casually toward the window where ships the size of small countries were hovering. "First off, don't worry. We're super friendly. We just like to be prepared for guests. Think of it as aggressive hospitality." Back on the alien flagship, Quartermaster was staring at his instruments in horror. "Sir, they're targeting us. All of them. Every single human ship has weapons locked onto our fleet." "How is that possible?" Admiral Drehorn whimpered. "We're spread across the entire planet." Amy continued her broadcast with a smile that could have frozen plasma. "Second, To our visiting friends up there in the flying saucers, yes, we can see you. The cloaking text stopped working when you got excited. We'd like to thank you for this opportunity to introduce ourselves properly to the galactic community. She paused to take a sip of her latte. And third, just so everyone knows, Earth is officially closed for invasion attempts. We're open for tourism, trade negotiations, and cultural exchanges, but the whole conquest thing is off the table. Permanently. The alien fleet began retreating so fast it violated several laws of physics. Ships that had taken hours to position themselves strategically were now fleeing in complete panic, desperate to reach minimum safe distance from the human armada. Sir, should we attempt to send a surrender message? Quartermaster, I asked weakly. Just get us out of here, Admiral Vashi said, his voice hollow with defeat. Full retreat. Maximum speed. As the alien ships fled toward the edge of the solar system, emergency sessions were already being called across the galaxy. The Galactic Council's emergency meeting was broadcast live to every civilized species, and the agenda had exactly one item: the human problem. Commander Mali's final transmission followed them into deep space. Safe travels, everyone. Feel free to drop by again sometime. We'll be here. All million plus of us. Amy Kowalski raised her coffee cup toward the retreating alien fleet. And hey, next time, maybe call ahead. We would have prepared snacks. The most humiliating military defeat in galactic history was complete. And humanity had accomplished it without firing a single shot. They didn't need to. Sometimes, the best weapon is making your enemy realize they were never really in a fight to begin with. The galaxy would never underestimate humans again.